Hey guys, it's been a while since we've looked at every set from Scarlet and Violet era, including the specialty set. So I figured today we were going to do that. Look at the top 3, 5, and 10 values, look at the prices of some of the boxes, some of the cards, just give you a better idea of where we're at because illustration rares have popped off a ton. Prices are all over the place. This is going to, paint you a picture of where everything's kind of falling into place at this point. So starting off with SV base, and again, I took numbers from today. Booster box price is $186. Nothing too crazy in here. Drowsy still around 56. Gardevoir, Slowpoke. I'm not going to go through every single individual card. There are a couple of things I'll point out, but you guys can see over here. I mean, you can look for yourselves. We have the top 3 value, top 5, top 10. Then we're doing a ranking. So I kind of want to go through this fairly fast. Paldea Evolved up next. Booster box still in the 220s. When we look at the cards, Magikarp's up to almost 280. That's interesting. Then you still have the Iona, the Raichu, the Baxcalibur, and all of those cards definitely are taking a bit of a beating. We all know that they got pumped up, but still holding around $40. The Artibax is what, 22, and I can't even see where the third one is. The middle evolution line. I don't even see it on the second or the first page. Is it? No, I guess not. So that's interesting. Paldea Evolved, again, nothing too crazy, but is in third place. It's the third best booster box right now, not just in terms of price, but also in top 3, top 5, and top 10 value. Obsidian Flames, the worst set of the era. Obsidian Flames is absolute dog shit. I don't care what you say. Booster box is getting up there, but Charizard, $74. Ninetales, second best card, under 30. The Cleffa in third place. Now, Cleffa is higher than the Gold Charizard EX, so there you go. That just shows you how trash this set is. But the booster box is still worth $190, but again, nothing crazy. Top 3 value, $131. Top 5 under 200, and top 10 $248. Next we have Paradox. Paradox is pretty cool. I have a lot of Paradox. Groudon's holding over 100. That's cool. Altaria is still around that $70 price point. Roaring Moon 60. Keep an eye on the Iron Valiant. This one's actually moving up into the 35 range. And if you guys remember, like a week and a half ago, maybe it was even a bit less than that, made a video talking about some Paradox Pokemon and how eventually I thought some of them were going to get a pump. This Iron Moth, if we can pull this one up here, this was like a $6 card a week ago, and it's now $27. So if we look at the month, of 500% almost. Huge pump there. Nothing too crazy in Paradox Rift though. Again, outside the top 4. Fourth highest top 3 value, and then fifth highest for top 5 and top 10 value there. Next up, Temporal Forces, booster box sitting around 180. And you have the Raging Bolt right around $100, Iron Crown. The Ghastly is slowly moving up, almost $60 right now, so that's interesting to keep an eye on. And outside of that, nothing too crazy. Iron Leaves is almost 40 again. Maybe keep an eye on that one. The Iron Boulder, a few things have actually overtaken this. The Gengar Full Art, the Deerling is continuing to go. Even the Lickitung at this point is higher than the Iron Boulder SIR, and it's almost going to get passed by the Arbok, and maybe even the Litten if we continue down the path that we're going. Again, Temporal Forces, fifth highest top 3 value, and then fourth highest top 5 and top 10 value. So a little bit deeper than Paradox Rift when you look at the numbers there. Then we start getting into some interesting stuff. So we have Twilight Masquerade sitting around 230, and you have the Greninja, $408. The Pairing's up there, Eevee's up there still. When we look at Twilight Masquerade, second highest booster box price, and then second highest top 3, top 5, and top 10 value. And it is, quite far away from Paldea Evolved, and it's, still fairly far away from Surging Sparks. It's kind of right in the middle of those two sets. Really solidified itself so far as the second best booster box set in terms of price and top 5 and top 10 and top 3 value, as you can see on the screen. Next up, we have Stellar Crown. Nothing too crazy here. I do think it's interesting, though. It's one of the most recent boxes, and it's, almost one of the highest booster box prices outside of the top 3. It's only a couple dollars behind Obsidian Flames, a dollar above SV Base, but SV Base and Obsidian are much older, over a year older than Stellar Crown. So if I had to guess, part of this probably has to do with playable cards. People just want to open it because it's a newer set. Maybe there's less of it available right now. I don't know. But those would be some things that I imagine. Nothing too crazy in the set. You have the Terapagos, Squirtle and Bulbasaur, which I imagine people want to chase. Keep an eye on the Dash Bun. It's now moving up over $40, close towards $45. The Hydrapple, Lacey, Galvantula, these cards aren't really doing too much. There really isn't a lot going on in Stellar Crown. I do like the Zeraora down here, but a lot of these IR cards, like the Gulpin, the Metatite is actually pretty cool. Raboot's all right, but some of these just aren't as interesting as other sets like Paradox Rift when it comes to illustration rare cards in that $20 to $5 range. In there, I think Paradox Rift has a much more interesting card list. And actually, speaking of Paradox Pokemon, I should bring this one up as well. This Slitherwing, this was like a $5 card when I was talking about it. Again, Paradox Pump, I called it. Eventually, someone's going to start pumping these cards. This is now a $13 card, so up 150% over the past month there. And then finally, we have Surging Sparks again. Surging Sparks, when you look at the numbers, most expensive booster box, and it's got the most expensive top 3, top 5, and top 10 value. It's the only booster box set in Scarlet and Violet so far that has a top 5 and top 10 value over $1,000. So that actually says quite a lot. It is also the newest set. And yeah, I mean, it clearly is the best set right now. If you guys want to get one out of all of the other sets, Pikachu up there, $450. The Latias, $250-ish. Milotic, $150. I love this gold Pikachu as well. So much better than the Prismatic one. Hydreigon in there. So again, really, really cool cards. And it is the #1 so far. And before we look at the ETB stuff, guys, I just want to jump in here and say 58% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you like data, if you like videos talking about Pokemon investing and, you know, a little bit else thrown in there from time to time, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe. It means a lot. Thank you so much if you do decide to do that. Moving into 151, this box is almost $200 now. And yeah, some pretty cool cards in 151. Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, obviously. You have Zapdos, Charmander, Alakazam, my favorite Pokemon of all time. So again, great set. Everyone loves 151. We will talk about this in a second. It does have the third highest top 3, top 5, and top 10 value when we look at specialty sets. But you can see we are going to look at Paldean Fates next. Actually, we could go to it right now. And this box is only $107. So, you know, more or less about 50% of the value of a 151 ETB. And again, we can't look at ETBs the same way we look at booster boxes because ETBs, the print runs do seem like they're changing. We're getting a lot less ETBs after Crown Zenith. They really haven't done a huge reprint on ETBs since then. And then also the promo card inside, I would say that the Snorlax is much better than the Mimikyu from Paldean Fates. So even though 151 is less in terms of top 3, top 5, and top 10 value, by actually, you know, a decent amount for top 3 and top 5, it closes the gap for the top 10. You know, the ETB is worth a lot more, right? But if we go look at Paldean Fates, some of the cards in here, the Mew EX still holding around 370, the Charizard 200, Gardevoir's up there around 90 still, whatever. And yeah, nothing too crazy to point out outside of that. And then finally, or not finally, I guess we'll just touch on Shrouded Fable. Again, Shrouded Fable, whatever, guys, $46. Nothing crazy. The Persian's $60 still. The Houndoom's 48. The Duskull's over 40. But again, like no huge chase card. Pheasantipity, Earthen Vessel, these are playable cards. Same thing with the Darkness Energies, I imagine. So a lot of cards in here that are playable, and that's increasing the value. I don't like Shrouded Fable. Again, even if you're buying at $20, sure, I get it, but there's just so many better sets to put your money into. And then finally, speaking of better sets, Prismatic Evolutions. Guys, Prismatic's already pushing $140 in ETB again, and it is pretty consistent around that price point. You do have a couple lower ones, but you also have a couple higher ones towards 150, and this is all from today. So I would imagine, because we're seeing it go up like $10 a week, maybe by the end of the week, well, this coming week or whatever, it's going to be closer to 150, then 160, then 170. It's just going to keep going until we get more ETBs on the market. Maybe if we get a lot of booster bundles, it slows it down. The cards in this set are just straight nasty. You have all of the evolutions. Umbreon EX still holding around $1,600. The gap between the Sylveon and the Espeon is continuing to shrink. Flareon's actually pulling away a bit from Leafeon, which is interesting. Glaceon's actually getting kind of close to Leafeon as well. Vaporeon's over $300. The Jolteon is even getting close to $300. So, you know, people said that they didn't like these cards. They weren't a fan of them. Guys, like out the gate, some of these lower cards like the Jolteon, the Vaporeon, the Glaceon, the less popular ones, these were in like the low 200s, mid 200s. They're all pushing $300 now, except the Jolteon, which is still very close. Outside of that, I do understand some people when they make the argument that a lot of these cards are reprints. For example, Ceruledge, Roaring Moon, Raging Bolt, Ursaluna, all of these Goldangle. Like a lot of these cards are reprints. I understand that. A lot of these cards are just better artworks though, and they're also SIRs. For example, the Ceruledge in Surging Sparks, I believe it is, isn't an SIR. I don't think it's just a regular IR card. And it's a very cool artwork. People like this card. The Roaring Moon, obviously, Shinji Kanda. This was like, what, 160 out the gate? It's now 220. The Dragapult, same thing. This isn't a reprint card. So, you know, even if you exclude the reprint cards, right, you hold all of the evolutions, you hold the Dragapult in there, Palafin EX is also holding just because it's that famous, I can't remember the guy's name, who created the anime, I believe, co-created it or whatever. So that's a really cool card that's holding. It's actually almost $100. It's continuing to go up a bit. But even if you got rid of the rest of the cards, right? Like say it was just the Master Balls and stuff outside of that, you still have an insane lineup, guys. And when we go look, top three value, almost $2,500. Top 5 value 3,200 and top 10 value $4,704.58. Like it's just not even close to anything else, guys. So people can say whatever they want. They can say they hate the cards, they don't like them. Some are reprints, blah blah blah. The Evolutions aren't reprints. The Dragapult's not a reprint. The Palafin's not a reprint. The set is super deep. You have demigod packs. You have god packs. What else you got in there? You know, you have the Master Balls, which is a new reverse hollow for the era. So it's wild, man. I love the set. I do think Pokemon would be incredibly stupid not to print it to the ground and not milk it for as long as they possibly can. But, that's just my opinion. Again, when we look at these numbers here on screen, the ETBs, it's fairly obvious. Prismatic, far and away, is number one. It does get interesting when you look at 151 and Paldean Fates. I would say most people would think 151 is a better investment. But at this point, right, like Paldean Fates has higher value and it's only half the price basically of a regular ETB. So, maybe Paldean Fates is undervalued. Again, you got to consider age of the set. You got to consider reprints. You got to consider certain cards being in meta. You have to consider the promo card when we look at ETBs, though the Snorlax is way better than the Mimikyu. In my opinion, that's biased, obviously, but I'd say the market agrees just based on the value. But Prismatic Evolutions, I mean, it's just going to be the clear winner. I think the Eevee's better than the Snorlax in terms of promo. They are fairly close, but even if those stay close and the Eevee doesn't even pass the Snorlax, just based on the value of the cards, it's going to be probably a better investment, especially considering it's still cheaper than 151 right now. Things get more interesting when you look at booster boxes. I do think Surging Sparks is the clear winner. Twilight Masquerade and Paldea are fairly close. I do think Twilight in the long run is going to do better. It does depend on reprints though, and we haven't really seen a reprint of Twilight yet, whereas we've seen Paldea Vault get a reprint, and it held pretty well through that reprint, right? We didn't see a huge crash on it. So it would be interesting to see if we got a lot of Twilight on the market, what would happen to the price, because these values could change. They really could change a lot. I think these are, still fairly close. So I understand the argument when people say Paldea is better. And again, like you probably need to factor in, the value of just people enjoying opening a set. And I think I don't factor that in perfectly. And I think it's really difficult to do that. Like I don't really know if there's any way to calculate that perfectly. But again, like if you want to go Paldea Evolved, Twilight, Surgeon, like those seem to be the clear three best sets from the era so far. Like that's not really a conversation that you can disagree with. I mean, you could try, but what are you going to choose, right? When we look at everything else, Paradox Rift, Temporal, you have your Obsidian Flame, Stellar Crown, SV Base, like these are all boxes that are much further below, and they're all very close, right? Like the cheapest is Paradox Rift at $176.19, and then the most expensive is Obsidian Flames at $190.75. So again, like a $15 difference. And you can see, like, when you look at the top 3, top 5, and top 10 values of these cards, they're all fairly close. I mean, like, Obsidian Flames is far and away the worst set when it comes to value inside of it. And this is considering that it has a Charizard that's $75, which really, outside that, like, there is not much in Obsidian Flames. I'd say, like, Paradox Rift and Temporal are probably a league above that. SV Base is even making an argument that it's above Obsidian Flames at this point in terms of the quality of cards inside. People are really enjoying the Drowsy, but not just the Drowsy. Like, we had the Gardevoir, the Routes, Curly aligned for a long time. Miriam was the highest card in the set. People still kind of like that. The Slowpoke has now come up. The Riolu, Miraidon, Koraidon have seen a little bit of love as well. The Armorogue, Armarouge, however you want to say it, that card's come up a lot as well. So yeah, I mean, people like this set, and it's starting to surprise a little bit. Do I think that SV Base is going to get close to something like Paradox or Temporal? I doubt it. Like, I really doubt it catches up, because it would have to make up over $100 in value just to catch Paradox Rift, and over $200 to catch Temporal Forces in top 10 value. So I think that SV Base, Obsidian Flames, these are probably a tier below Paradox Rift Temporal Forces. Again, you can make the argument where you want to put Stellar Crown. And again, I understand too that older sets, diversify, blah, 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 reprints, all of this. But, I just throw this data out here because I think it's fairly easy to see which are going to be the best sets, which are going to be the big winners long term. And if people want to spend their time arguing about stuff that's in the middle that, is just going to average out and do well, like that's great. I don't think it's worth a huge time investment to, just try and figure out which one of those, 5 sets, Stellar, Temporal, Paradox, Obsidian Flames, or SP Base, which one of those is gonna, somehow move into 4th place and try and rank those. Like to me, that's irrelevant. Just look at what's obvious, what's yelling at you basically on the screen, telling you is going to be the best. Everything else is just noise. So if you want to invest in that and just buy a little bit of it all, I think it's really not going to make too much of a difference long term. Which one you go a bit heavier in. So that's just my opinion. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Again, if you enjoy database videos, if you guys want to subscribe, that means a lot. Also, in the description down below, I have affiliate links to PokeNotify, Hobbiesville, eBay, TCG Player. So if you are planning to buy something, it's a free and easy way to support the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.